Just to prove how fluid this situation is, we actually are just now hearing into our newsroom where sources are telling CBS News New York that the suspect shot himself and that suspect is now dead. These are from several sources that are telling CBS News New York that the suspect shot himself and that suspect is now dead. It still remains to be seen what exactly the circumstances were in regards to this shooting. We can tell you that the suspect, before they turned the gun on themselves, did shoot a police officer. We are not aware of any other injuries at this time. You can see emergency personnel from the FDNY entering the building there from the courtyard. These are live pictures from Chopper 2 that you are seeing above the building there on Park Avenue between Park and Lext and 51st and 52nd Street. So once again, this is what we know so far. There was a shooting at 345 Park Avenue. The report started coming in around 6:30, 6:40 this evening. We heard of multiple shots being fired. We know that one police officer was shot. There was a massive police presence that responded to this area to search for the shooter. It was an active shooter situation. And now, just moments ago, we have heard from multiple sources that tell CBS News New York that the suspect shot himself and that suspect is now dead. There does remain a huge police presence, FDNY, state police, all there within this 1 block radius of the city. There are also going to be multiple streets that are now closed in this vicinity. There will be trains that will be skipping stops along this vicinity as well. If you have a loved one that worked at this building, they were being told to stay in place. Some early on in the situation were evacuated from the building. But once again, we do want to reassure you that if you've had a loved one that is working on this building, which houses multiple companies, some people were evacuated, others were told to stay in place. Let's bring in our NYPD, a former NYPD detective, Darren Porcher. Darren, this is Christine Johnson. Can you hear me?
Christine, I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I know that you've been listening here to our broadcast. You may be able to see some of the pictures. With this new information that we have, it appears by all indications, according to several sources, that this is no longer an active shooter situation. We were hearing that there was only one person that they were looking for. In these types of situations, how can they be sure of that? And will they just actively be looking through every floor of this building, which, by the way, is 44 stories?
Well, the police department is going to do a grid search. First thing is first. The officer that was at the location, the NYPD has police officers that work off duty. It's something we refer to as a paid detail capacity, meaning you have a police officer that's in uniform and they're hired by an establishment to provide a level of security. So that being said, that was the officer that was on the ground. We had an individual that had a long gun, and there was shooting at the location, and then he goes into the building. Because when we look at, technological innovations in a place like New York City, we had video and still photography immediately. So there were images of the alleged shooter that was circulated like right away. And then you had the NYPD's emergency service unit, which would be equivalent to SWAT in other places, that was basically tasked with the charge of what we refer to as a grid pattern search. We had a hot zone and a warm zone. The hot zone is the area where a person has the propensity to be shot. So when we have a situation like people that are in the hot zone, we want to fit them with heavy vests and things, ballistic shields and things to that effect. If we don't have the ability to fit those individuals with the heavy vest or ballistic shield, what we're going to ask is those individuals to shelter in place, because you have two options. You can either have the people in the building shelter in place or evacuate. We want them to evacuate if they have a safe passageway out of the building. But if there's no safe passageway out of the building, that's when we have them shelter in place. All accounts appear as if this was an individual that committed suicide. We don't know what floor he was on. But going back to the technological innovations, there are cameras on every floor in that building. So it provided the police department an eye as to where that individual was. And fortunately, the carnage ended, and now we're doing something we refer to as a backwards investigation. And that backwards investigation is we're going to start from where the individual committed suicide, and we're going to look at everything that person did up to and including when they arrived at the scene.
It's quite fascinating and overwhelming to hear you talk about the advances in technology where the police can tap into this in real time to know the suspect's whereabouts and what is happening. Like I said, in real time. What is priority number one right now, in addition to obviously finding out who this person was and the motive behind it? But what about all the folks that were in that building?
Priority number one is to ensure that this is a safe environment. Are there additional co-conspirators that were part of this? Are there incendiary devices such as pipe bombs that were planted in the building? These are things that we don't know, and so we want to ensure when we do that search through the building that that facility is safe. Upon deeming this as a safe facility, that's when we're going to start the evacuation. And the evacuation is going to be done carefully. We're not going to have a tidal wave of people run out of the building all at once. We want to ensure that this is a safe and secure evacuation. After the building is evacuated, then we're going to continue with this, as I mentioned earlier, the backwards investigation from where that individual took their life up to and including when they arrived on the scene. And so when we speak to the motive, oftentimes individuals like this, a lone wolf, he may have, because I believe this was identified as a male, this individual may have a manifesto on his person. And then we're going to do the traditional things that we all know of, such as going through a computer, going through his cell phone, things to that effect. But right now, the main priority is to ensure that this is a safe environment to evacuate the people that are in that building.
Darren, we're just hearing from two law enforcement sources that 2 civilians were shot and injured. Their exact condition we do not know yet. But we are hearing, in addition to the police officer that was shot, that 2 civilians were shot and injured. Their location, their condition, not yet known. But from these live pictures that we're looking at here, you can tell that there is still clearly a heavy police presence. The safety and well-being, as you mentioned, of the folks that are still inside the 345 Park Avenue address is paramount at this hour. Tell me more about the way that you go in and you sweep this building. You mentioned the possibility of incendiary devices being left behind. Are we talking about dogs going in?
Well, it can be dogs. Remember, we have a bomb squad. We have the best bomb squad in the country in the NYPD. So they're going to work in tandem with the emergency service unit, meaning our special operations officers, when they do that sweep into the building. So if an emergency service officer comes across something that appears to be an incendiary device, it's not going to be that emergency service officer that does the assessment. It would be actually someone from the bomb squad. So this is a very large building. It's an arduous task, and it's going to require a tremendous level of resources on the part of the NYPD to ensure that this building is safe. And it's just going to take some time. Time is on our side. We never want to rush because we want to make sure that this is a safe environment. So when we look to the emergency service unit coupled with the bomb squad, and you mentioned dogs, we do have bomb dogs in the bomb squad that assist in this. So it's the collaboration of those 2 resources that's going to ensure that we have a safe environment.
So, like I mentioned, this building is 44 stories. It takes up an entire city block. This is going to take some time here this evening to get through each space.
It will take time, but time is on our side because remember, at this stage, it appears as if the initial adversary has been neutralized on his own in that he committed suicide. So remember, we have these cameras all throughout the building, and they're going to act as a tremendous asset for police to find out the pathway that the assailant took from when he entered the building up to and including that point where he committed suicide. So that is going to be the focal point in terms of how this search is done, because we're going to follow that pathway to where every place that he encountered while he was in that building. So granted, we have a large structure, but we're fortunate to have the cameras to assist in determining where he actually went. What was he actually in possession of outside of a long gun when he entered that building?
Darren, do you have live pictures of what we're airing? Do you have access to that?
No, unfortunately, I don't see you.
Okay.
I mean, I know how this is done, but I don't. I can't
no,
see
it's okay. I just wanted to point
phone.
out to our viewers that Chopper 2 is over the scene of the building, and we're seeing a black vehicle with its hazard lights on. We saw some officers surrounding that vehicle. There is one door open, and then the back passenger door, it looks as though that they have tied, I can just best describe it as a string, as some sort of wire, and it looks as though that they're trying to open the back passenger door from a far distance. So they're trying to, they're using some sort of latch system to open that back door, but again, from a distance. For safety reasons, I'm assuming. There is an NYPD car that is parked nearby that is also in the picture. But again, they've got some device attached to the handle of the back passenger door of this vehicle. Oh, they just opened it. Actually, it wasn't the passenger door. It was the passenger front door. They just opened it.
But they are, police are moving them towards down Lexington Avenue. Christine?
Now there are several NYPD detectives coming up to inspect what is inside. What's your gut telling you about what's going on here?
Well, there's a series of logistics, meaning resources that the police department has to engage vehicles as it relates to gaining entry. And it appears as if that's what's being employed in this particular situation. They're using a series of tools to access this vehicle. As to why they're attempting to approach this vehicle, that's one of the unknowns. But as I mentioned in the earlier part, there are not just cameras in the building, but in a place like New York City, you're photographed or videotaped 100 to 200 times a day. So the police department has a consent agreement with many of these commercial establishments, which allows the NYPD to key in on the cameras that are mounted in these commercial establishments. In addition to that, the NYPD has still cameras that are mounted on various corners throughout the city, which common citizens can see. So my guess is they probably saw something on these external cameras, which led them to believe that this was a vehicle in question that they should check with to find out more information.
So it is highly plausible that this could very well have been the vehicle that the person, the shooter, drove to the scene. We, of course, do not have that confirmed, but by what you're saying and the attention that these police officers are now giving this to this vehicle right now, it does appear as a possibility. They are very close to the vehicle, so much so that I'm thinking that they may appear to deem it safe, but now they're looking at the trunk area and also underneath the vehicle. Clearly a lot of intrigue and some concern regarding this vehicle.